Welcome to the Deep Dive. So today we have a mission that's a little bit unique for us. We're taking a single concept, you could even call it a complete philosophical statement, and we're treating that as our entire source material. We're going to dive into the intellectual implications of a document that's simply titled God's Preparation for Our Church.
And that title is, I mean, it's monumental, isn't it? It's a full thesis statement right out of the gate. It immediately sets up this relationship between, an organization on one hand and an ultimate external authority on the other.
Exactly.
Our goal here is really just to unpack the conceptual framework that's embedded in those 5 powerful words. It makes us ask, what does divine preparation actually imply? Not just theologically, but organizationally.
Absolutely. And this deep dive, it's kind of a shortcut to understanding the entire conceptual landscape this title creates. You can almost forget the specific steps the author might detail later. The real mission is to grasp that foundational nugget of knowledge, the very premise that a religious institution is being, acted upon by a divine agent in a focused process of readiness.
And what's immediately fascinating there is the shift in agency. In, secular organizational theory, the primary agent is almost always human leadership. The CEO, the board, a planning committee.
Following people in charge.
Right. But here, the agency is fully centralized and it's external. It's God's.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start right there. The implication of God's. If the source of this preparation is an ultimate, maybe even an infallible authority, how does that fundamentally change the nature of the strategic process? In a human organization, a plan is always subject to revision, right? To failure, to market forces. But in this context, the preparation is presumably perfect, inevitable, purpose-driven.
Precisely. And if we connect that to the bigger picture of, say, organizational resilience, well, human organizations thrive on contingency planning. What if plan A fails? We pivot to B.
Of course.
But the concept of God's preparation, it sort of eliminates the need for that contingency. The outcome is guaranteed. And yet, and this is key, the process itself must still be rigorous.
It also reframes the whole idea of success and failure, doesn't it? If a difficulty comes up within our church, it's not seen as a management failure. It's potentially an intentional step within that preparation process, like a test designed to achieve a specific necessary hardening.
That's where the analysis gets really rich. Think about it like smelting metal. The heat isn't comfortable, but it's required for refinement.
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
So when the title says God's preparation, it gives difficulties a transcendent meaning. They're not random, they're instruments of shaping. For the members of this organization, that perspective has to radically change how they view any current struggles.
Okay, and this is where it gets really interesting for me. Let's move to the action itself. Preparation. We have to stop thinking of this as just getting ready. This is an active, focused, forward-looking state. It's fundamentally different from just maintenance or simple growth.
If you look at historical precedents for preparation, like a nation preparing for a major industrial revolution or a general preparing troops for a specific campaign.
Right, a big, specific event.
Preparation consumes all resources and all energy. It's defined by intentional discomfort, by setting aside temporary pleasures for a long-term capability.
And what's crucial there is that preparation necessitates an endpoint. You don't prepare indefinitely. If we analyze this conceptually, preparation is the interval between an initial state and a defined future purpose. It's the bridge.
And a strong bridge needs a very strong foundation. So the document's title forces us to focus on that foundation. What would divine preparation actually entail? It must target the deepest vulnerabilities.
What do you mean by that?
Well, it might mean theological purity, making sure the doctrine is sound. Or it could be structural integrity, ensuring the organization can handle the future stress of its mission. Unlike human planning, which so often focuses on, external appearances and metrics, this suggests a focus on the intrinsic state.
That distinction, intrinsic state versus external metrics, that's a phenomenal takeaway. A secular company might prepare by maximizing profit margins or market share, but a church prepared by God. It's likely focused on internal cohesion, resilience, spiritual readiness, whatever that means for them. The external results are almost secondary to the internal capacity building.
And this brings up an important question. Is the preparation process voluntary? The term God's preparation really suggests sovereignty. If we assume the author sees this preparation as sovereign, then the organization is the one being acted upon. It's the passive recipient, even if the human agents are participating willingly. This creates a conceptual tension between divine action and human response.
Let's turn our attention to the subject of all this, our church. That possessive pronoun our, it grounds the whole analysis in something specific and communal. It's not the church in some abstract, universal sense. It's a defined local community that is undergoing this focused preparation.
Yeah, the term our church introduces a sense of intimate involvement, a unique trajectory. It suggests that while the process, preparation, and the agent God are grand, the recipient is personal. Perhaps it's facing specific local challenges that require this tailored preparation. It implies identity and community.
That specificity means the preparation isn't just some generic template. It has to be customized. Think of preparing a single instrument versus preparing an entire symphony orchestra. The orchestra requires coordination, individual refinement of instruments, and training all the human players to move in unison.
And if you look at this title through the lens of, say, institutional psychology for our church, this title acts as an immense motivator, a unifier. It provides a shared narrative. We are all undergoing this specific intentional experience together, directed by a higher power. I mean, that transcends your typical team building exercises. This is purpose building on a spiritual level.
Let's consider a historical analysis, organizational formation. Many successful, long-lasting organizations, religious or secular, they attribute their strength to periods of intense internal preparation. And these periods are often marked by hardship, which force them to rely on themselves and define their core values. This title just puts a theological lens on that universal phenomenon.
What really stands out to me is how this structure, agent, action, subject, it provides an organizational defense mechanism against cynicism. If things are difficult, the response isn't despair or questioning leadership.
No.
The response is to recognize, we're in the preparation phase. It gives suffering a function.
Okay, let's unpack the difference between preparation and testing. Are they synonymous within this framework? Because I see preparation as the entire rigorous process, while testing might just be the benchmark, the stress point to confirm if the preparation was successful.
I would argue that preparation includes testing, but testing isn't the whole story. Preparation is additive. It builds new muscle, new capacity, new refinement. Testing just assesses the current state. So divine preparation, as implied here, must be fundamentally additive. It's designed to grant the organization capabilities it didn't have before.
So we're talking about capability development for a future event. This brings us right back to the crucial timeline implied by the concept of readiness. The author of this text is asking the community to adopt a long-term perspective. They're living in the before, anticipating the after.
And that long-term focus requires enormous faith and patience from the membership. Imagine running an annual budget meeting where the leadership says, look, we're intentionally entering a phase of preparation that will feel restrictive, but the ultimate purpose requires this refining.
Wow. Yeah.
That level of buy-in requires absolute confidence in the agent, in this case, God.
This really reframes organizational strategy as a kind of radical discipleship. The strategy isn't about achieving the best immediate outcome. It's about aligning with the ultimate plan, no matter the immediate cost or difficulty.
And that strategic alignment, that's the key takeaway for any organization, religious or not. Are your current actions aligned with your ultimate defined purpose, or are you just maximizing short-term gains? This title provides a mirror for any organizational leader to look into.
Okay, let's delve into the scope implied here. Does preparation for our church imply preparation only for the internal community, or preparation for a mission to the external world?
Well, since preparation is rarely undertaken for its own sake, it has to be aimed toward deployment, right? Mission fulfillment. If we assume the purpose of the church is often external outreach, service, impact,
Right.
then the preparation must necessarily equip the organization to interact with the world in a powerful, sustainable way. So the preparation is internal, but the purpose is external.
That suggests a necessary paradox, then. The organization has to look inward and refine itself completely, knowing that the ultimate objective requires it to look outward and engage fully. The inward focus is simply fueling the future external capacity.
Think about the preparation required to build a massive infrastructure project, like a dam. Years are spent underground, digging foundations, pouring concrete, work that is unseen, often dirty, and seems unproductive.
Right, the stuff no one sees.
But that unseen work is the absolute requirement for the eventual visible product, which is generating immense power. This conceptual framework applies the same logic to the organization.
That analogy of the foundation and the dam is incredibly clear. The period of preparation is defined by hidden work, which is foundational and non-negotiable.
What's also compelling is how the title addresses internal divisions. If the community accepts the premise of God's preparation, then internal conflict or disagreements must be viewed not as a breakdown, but perhaps as part of the purification process, something necessary for that final unity required for the eventual mission.
We've spent this entire deep dive treating this title as a complete, self-contained thesis on organizational readiness and spiritual agency. The density of implication contained within God's preparation for our church is just remarkable. It highlights how much can be inferred from a powerful conceptual framing.
If we summarize the conceptual scope, we're looking at a framework defined by non-human agency, inevitable purpose, intensive internal refinement, and a communal subject, all aimed at future capability. The takeaway is that agency matters. Are you the actor or the one being acted upon? And are you engaging in true preparation or just maintenance?
And that idea of preparation, of readiness preceding action, that's the ultimate shortcut to success in any endeavor. Whether you're building a business, training for a marathon, or leading a community, readiness is the difference between surviving an event and thriving through it.
Absolutely. This title forces the listener to prioritize that initial conceptual step, the preparation over the immediate desire for results.
This has really been an exercise in extracting profound organizational theory from the most concise source material imaginable. We've defined the who, the what, and the subject purely based on the intellectual power of the words chosen.
Indeed. It provides a unique lens through which to examine organizational strategic planning.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought, which is rooted in this conceptual tension of readiness. If an organization is actively being prepared by an ultimate authority and the preparation is rigorous, what is the specific event or monumental purpose that this intense conditioning is aimed toward? What seismic challenge or epical mission is the church being prepared to meet? What happens when the preparation is complete? That's the question you must now ponder for yourself.
Some food for thought until the next deep dive.